Hello. So, I'm here to talk a little bit about postpartum. And Saoirse's here to help me. I guess it'll be me watching this someday, rewatching, and Piper, maybe my other kids. Who knows? If I have more kids, I want more kids. And I'm whispering. Hopefully you can hear me. Turn the volume up. Because Piper is asleep right there. My blog has gone untouched since before I went into labor. I did a final blog post and then didn't write anything, even though I swore I would. And that's having a baby. That is life with a baby in a nutshell. You want to keep the blog post. Although I've never been really good at keeping up with those things. So I don't know if this is a little bit of a nutshell thing. It's not what I wanted. I wanted to every week write a new post, or at least every 2 weeks, write kind of what was going on. But that didn't happen, but that's okay. And I'll just talk a little bit about what's been going on, because Piper is 7 months old now. She turned 7 months old on the 18th of June. What is that, a couple days ago, I guess. Hello, baby Sasha. So 7 months later, I can finally talk about this. Maybe I'll do my birth story in another post, because that's a bit, I don't know, I kind of want to talk about, I guess, the journey after that first. My goodness, well, I'll start here. I tore really badly in 2 different spots. When I do share my birth story, I'll talk about like how she kind of came out like a water slide. It was like a few pushes and out she came, and she flew out like it was a water slide. So as a result, I didn't really have much time to kind of stretch, and I tore really badly. I think that's why my healing took so long, very long. It was, I want to say it was a month, like a solid 4 weeks. Hair on my mouth. A solid 4 weeks before I began to feel remotely like myself again. And it was still far longer after that. It was probably, I would say, like in the 10 to 12, maybe in the 10 to 12 week zone is finally when I stopped feeling as sore. It was that long for me. Yeah, it was like 4 months. Well, 3 to 4 months. Probably closer to 4 that it was before I felt like, oh, okay, I'm not as sore anymore. I mean, that said, I was walking a lot better after 2. The first 2 weeks were brutal. I mean, by far. It was like I just got a detachable shower head. My dad put that in for me. It was so nice. So I could just kind of like rinse it where I needed to, because there was just no touching anything. And when showering even happened, quite frankly, I don't even know. I maybe took a shower once or twice a week, not even kidding. Aside from like a brief rinse off. I was just so tired. I was so tired. And Piper, to this day, she remains an in-arms baby. She loves to be held. I mean, now that she's been crawling, she kind of wants to get down a little bit more. But even then, she doesn't want to get put down to crawl on her own. She wants you to kind of be there with her and playing, and after a while, she just wants you to hold her again, which is very sweet. And I've just loved it. It's had its challenges, but I just love that. I won't get to snuggle her forever. So I always said I want to be able to carry her around as long as I can. And I'm glad that she still loves that. But I'm getting a little bit ahead about where we are now. But yeah, the first 2 weeks were super, I mean, really rough. Like, Never, never, never did I have any regret. Like, there's no regret. Like, not even, I don't ever want to give that impression. It was just being a mother from second one, is just incredible, and what I've always wanted. And I'm just petting Saoirse down here, sorry. Hello, baby Saoirse. But it was like, I mean, those first 2 weeks I was like, oh God, like I could never do this again. Like one is gonna be enough. And I think a lot of that was the pain of recovery. I mean, I really think if I didn't tear so badly, I would have had a different story. I just wasn't mobile. I really wasn't. It was really hard to stand back up after sitting. They gave me a little foam, like a little foam thing with little foam knobs, I guess you could say. I don't know what you call those things. But it would be to take the pressure off and put it more on, like, I guess your kind of hips and back rather than your bottom. And that did help, but it was still extremely painful. And I just couldn't like toss and turn. Like every movement was very slow and deliberate, and I had no ab muscles. Oh my God. I mean, and that took a really long time to even get back. I couldn't, like, just like in pregnancy, your belly gets so big and like everything is so like you can't just sit up after a time because like your ab muscles, it puts too much strain, and you feel like you're gonna snap and stress something. So you can't, it was like the same deal. Like I couldn't go from a lying down to sitting up position. I couldn't even go from maybe like a slightly reclining to sitting up. I needed help or ability to be propped up. So I think that a huge piece of it was being so immobile for 2 weeks, and the lack of sleep. Piper was not a sleeper. She did me the great courtesy of being a great sleeper in the hospital while we were there for a few days. For some reason there, she was a champ. She slept, my goodness, 5-6 hours at a time. It was like, oh, that's good. So like, the first few days after birth, after birthing her, I got to rest and sleep. And she would eat quickly and then go back to sleep. It was a little bit, maybe around the time my milk came in, around day 5, maybe it was day 5. So I think I was actually like a little bit into day 5 or tail end of day 4, whatever. My milk came in. That might have done it when she was done with the colostrum, and her belly was getting a tiny little bit bigger. The lack of sleep started, but oh my God, she hated her bassinet, she hated her crib, she hated the pack and play, she hated every little thing except sleeping in mama's arms. I won't list the number of things I tried, rock and plays, and which I know like none of the stuff you're supposed to do, but this child wanted to sleep nowhere but mama's arms. And I'm really confident in how I sleep. I knew I could safely have her next to me and kind of nestled in the crook of my arm. So that's what we did. And she slept best that way. It was just hard for me because I was already so sore and stiff. To then have to hold a position all night was hard. And those first 2 weeks, I got used to it. And as I healed, it became easier. But that was very hard in the beginning. And she didn't sleep. She was a baby who was up every hour or two. Every 1 to 2 hours. And in those first couple weeks, it would take her like 2 hours to go back to sleep. So it was brutal. She'd, go to bed at 9. And I would just go to sleep any chance I could with her. She'd go down at 8. I would go to bed at 8. But then she'd be up at 10 and she wouldn't go back to bed until midnight. And then maybe she'd wake up at 1 and then she wouldn't go back down until 3. And it was very hard. I don't know how I would have survived without my mother. There were many nights I just had to sleep another hour or so. I was leaking all over the place. My bed got drenched. It was so funny. Like, I mean, you wake up and it's like sopping. Like you have, like you spilled 2 glasses of water in your bed. But, we figured it out, and she's gotten much better since, but only recently. All the people were like, my baby slept at 3 months old. Maybe if I was willing to do the cry it out method, but I couldn't. It still breaks my heart when she cries. I don't like to hear her crying, so we don't do that to be Saoirse. But that's what made those first 2 weeks really hard, was like me trying to heal and her just not sleeping. And we had a lot of feeding troubles. I don't need to go too much, I guess, in detail, because that's a story all by itself. But I don't know what it was. I mean, to this day, I don't really know what it was. You know, at first it was like, oh, because of my breast reduction surgery. But then we got advice and they said, no, it seems like your milk's fine. And then she did have a tongue tie and a lip tie. So that was likely the culprit of all her feeding troubles. She was a much better feeder after that. But we were already into 3 weeks when we caught the tongue and lip tie. And I think that, combined with maybe some factors of just my body, my supply kind of tanked. And long story short, I just struggled to build it up. I struggled to pump enough to build it up, to have her feed. Because she was still learning to feed correctly after that. Like, it wasn't like, oh, now she's fine, now she's latching great. And she always had a really strong suck. It was never that. It was just getting her to latch right, and the endurance. She fell asleep at the boob all the time. That was the big issue, is that was probably what kept us from breastfeeding. The most was that she just, and there was no nudging her awake. Like, there was none. Other people would try it too. Our breastfeeding consultant would just nudge, and she did not want to be woken up. She was very content to just sleep, just with my nipple in her mouth. And then she fell asleep. It was very cute, but frustrating when you're trying to breastfeed. And maybe if I had just kept at it, but I had to go back to work. At that point, my maternity leave was up, and we were kind of out of time. I pushed as long as I could. And there's a lot of things I'm kind of ashamed about, but I also know how hard I pushed, and I remember very clearly how hard that was. There was one night, I think the first night I gave her formula, we were in our 2nd week of age, and she woke up and she was just eating. I was going one boob to the other, literally just like left, right, left, right, left, right. We kept that up for an hour and a half, maybe even closer to 2 hours. And I just had no more. She was screaming her head off, still really hungry. I tried to pump when she wasn't eating. I was like, okay, maybe she's just having trouble sucking. I tried to pump, and nothing, not a drop came out. And so my mom, 3 o'clock in the morning, ran to the 24-hour CVS and got her some formula. And from there, we supplemented with formula for a long time. I pumped and I breastfed as much as I could, and things got better, especially after her tongue and lip tie got corrected at the dentist. But we had to keep supplementing with formula. She was still mostly breast milk for a really long time. I did really well with that. But once I went back to work, that kind of put an end to everything. I leaked for a long time after stopping breastfeeding. Lefty especially. Lefty was my big leaker. For a long time. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even more. It was a long time. I had to keep wearing the pad, the bra pads, nipple shield pads, nipple pads. Oh my gosh, I tried nipple shields for breastfeeding. They were fun. They helped. We did a lot to make it work. And she's really happy and healthy. I hope that she has gotten sick like twice in her 7 months, so I think I did okay. I'm trying to give her healthy things now that she's on solids. Telling myself formula is not poison. Those kind of breast is best things mess with you. I don't think I've ever felt so depressed and ashamed of myself in my life and felt like such a failure. And that's saying something. I've been in some dark places with that, feeling like a failure. And this was the worst I've ever felt, really feeling like I couldn't feed my baby. I couldn't give her what was best. That was really hard. I don't think I think in my life collectively, I've maybe never cried as much as I did. And especially that first month postpartum. That first month postpartum, you will feel like, at least for me, maybe not everybody, obviously, but for me, oh my God, I've never felt like such a failure. Also, so blissfully happy, which is a strange combination, but my heart has just been bursting with love for this baby since second one, like I said. That never changed, even through the hard stuff. It was just feeling like I was doing a really, like world's worst mom, times a million. But you come out of that and you realize you did your best and your baby loves you. Some of the positives, some of the funny things she always did. She still does this to an extent, but she really did this because she's a little harder to get to sleep now. But oh my God, for maybe 5 months, I would say the first 4 or 5, probably I want to say 5 months of her life, nighttime sleep, even some naps were only for mama. She would cry and scream her head off. Like, I'm so tired, I need to sleep. And she's an in-arms baby. She would not go to sleep if you weren't holding her, but specifically me. Repeated attempts, like to try to help me get some rest and let me sleep. My parents and brother would all take turns trying to get her to sleep, and she would be screaming her head off. And finally, like after an hour, someone would go and wake me up and be like, I'm so sorry, but she's just not going to sleep. And I would hold her and she'd go, ah. And down she'd go on my chest and go right to sleep, not even kidding. And I'll just never forget the noise. It was just wah, 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 ah. And down she'd go, and you'd put like the passy in her mouth and it'd be the slow motion, like, ah. And it's just so funny. Oh my God. And she still does that to an extent. She just now, like the last month or two, she will, maybe the last 2 months, she'll kind of pick her head back up and look around. Like you have to kind of have her in the right position. She does well with like one arm in, like around my waist, and like the rest and me kind of cradling her and giving her a little bounce, and she goes to sleep really well that way now. Or if it's nighttime, I think she knows like my bed really well now, that she'll just lie next to me and in the crook of my arm, and then goes the passy and she'll sleep, but she lets me scoot her over a little bit now. So she doesn't have to be like nestled in my arms all night, which has been a game changer. So we both have a little bit of space, but I love having her sleep next to me. I'd be having a panic attack if she didn't, just for me personally. I would never, even with a baby monitor, I would never stop wondering what was going on in the next room. So in bed, she stays with me and we're both happier. Up until 2 months ago, we discovered this DockATot that maybe when she was 3 or 4 months old, 3 or 4 months, I think closer to 3, we started with the DockATot. We had to kind of train her to use it. She didn't take to it every night, you know, all the time. Like, it was like a learning process, but she would lay in that little DockATot. So she had her own space in my bed, and then I slept more comfortably, not feeling like I was cocooned or unable to move at all. And then she slept safely in her own space, which was really good. But that took practice. I mean, I think we started that when she was 3 months old, and she probably didn't get the hang of that. Like, we didn't get really consistent with that till she was 4 months. I bet it took about 3 or 4 weeks of sometimes her not wanting to be in there, and then sometimes like, oh, it's okay, and sometimes, well, I'll start the night in there, but when I wake up in the middle of the night for my food, I want to go back to sleep in your arms. That happened for a long time. and she wasn't a good sleeper for a long time. Maybe on the last 3 weeks, she's 7 months old. I would say only this month, only since turning 6 months old. When she turned 6 months old, her sleep got infinitely better. She started giving me 7 hour stretches, but that quickly turned into like 8 hours. And now the last 3 days in a row, she's given me 10-hour stretches. It's unbelievable. And when you are rested and you start getting your sleep again, you feel like an entirely new person. I have the energy to do everything. I think my biggest enemy in motherhood so far has just been lack of sleep. Lack of sleep makes you feel like everything is a million times harder and worse than it actually is. And she was a tough one. And because she really didn't want to sleep for anyone but me, it was really me this whole time, like just me, kind of at all hours. Not to say my parents didn't help, my goodness. My parents and brother were huge, because once I got her to sleep, she was much happier to let me then pass her off to somebody else, and she'd stay asleep for them usually. So there were many nights that my parents or my brother took her to give me a break, so that I could finally get like 8 hours in a row once in a while, because I just couldn't keep at the pace. I mean, she was a baby who woke up every 2 to 4 hours for a really long time, like the majority of her life. I would say she was I'll wake up every 2 to 4 hours. And that, especially when you're working, especially when you're teaching, I mean, I don't discredit any other professions, but oh my gosh, teaching, you have to be so emotionally and physically on. Teaching middle school, no less, language arts. So that was very draining for me. And I give 100% with everything. And so it's kind of like you're just constantly running on fumes and adrenaline and coffee, which I couldn't even drink coffee every day, because some days I was so tired it made me sick. Coffee actually made me feel too sick to drink, and so it was just trying to eat healthy to keep my energy up, not doing sugar, so I wouldn't crash. But I think I've been the healthiest in my life, my whole pregnancy and postpartum. That's one thing I've stuck with. I've been very healthy, and I'm like 139 pounds or something right now, maybe even less, 137, which is the lightest I've been since like high school. So, which, I mean, the scale doesn't mean much, and but just to say it's, been, I guess that's a health. I know that my body, and that's a very healthy weight. When I'm being healthy, that's a good weight for me. And I just feel so good. I feel so good now. Like, for how hard that first month was, and those first 2 weeks, especially like healing, my body feels so good. And I'm really happy and really amazed with what it did. Motherhood really, at least for me, it's been the thing that helped me finally stop worrying about my body, what I look like. Not that I don't care at all. I want to, look and feel my best still and be proud. But I'm just more proud of what my body does and how strong it is. And it's like, look at that stretch mark. Look at this little roll. Like, who cares? Honestly, who cares? So there's a lot of confidence that I didn't have. I now have Piper, thanks to Piper. Thanks to Piper. She's made me just the happiest and I think healthiest, both mentally and physically, I've been in ever since being a child myself. I always really feel like I was meant to be a mom. That's what I was born to do, was to be a mother. I wish I could quit my job and do it full time. I would love nothing more than to be here every day with her. So many people, as we let out for spring break, today was the last day of work. And as we let out for spring break, so many people were like, you remember to let your parents babysit once in a while. Like, you need a break, you go do this. I'm like, I don't really want a break much. It's one thing to maybe say, hey, can you come watch her for 30 minutes while I take a shower and like get some lotion on, or coconut oil is really what I use, and a coconut olive oil blend, which I love. My beauty routine. You know, be able to take my time. I like that, but I don't know, when I'm doing errands, I like having her with me. It makes the grocery store bearable. I love to cook. I don't like to grocery shop at all, and having her with me helps. It was always the same with my puppies. I always wished I still wish I could bring them places with me. It makes me happier. So I like to have that company. She's coming with me on a lot of trips this summer, and I don't want to leave her behind. It would not only give me a heart failure, but I would just miss her. I like to have her with me. She makes me laugh. And let's see, what other cute things has she done? My goodness, so many. I wrote down a lot of these things on her monthly boards, but I haven't done a board for months 5, 6, and 7. My goodness, her yawn, she does this yawn. She's always done it, and it's like really extra now. She goes, ah, and that's her yawn. She does this kind of a face, which is really cute. And she'll go, and she'll get really excited about food and flap her arms and kick her legs, and she goes, when something's so delicious, which is so cute. She loves avocado and oatmeal with cinnamon. And she loves her milk. She's always loved her milk. She's an eater. She's a snacker though. She's always been a snacker. I don't think she's ever been a big eater. Like, she's never been like an all at once spread throughout. I think I've always fed her frequently. She's never been like, yeah, I can go like 4 or 5 hours. No, she's like every 2 to 3 hours, she wants some food. Just a little bit, little snacks, which is good. I think that's healthy, and I just follow her lead with that. And naps, I've always followed her lead with as well. We're not on a schedule, which works for me because I'm not on a schedule. My life has never been, nor do I want it to be. Enough things are scheduled. I like to be more flexible, which has been great because she can fall asleep in very noisy places with dogs barking, and she can stay asleep. And I've been very lucky there. She's really flexible. Like, we're going to go on our first plane ride this Saturday, a couple more days, and I think she's going to do a great job. I'm not nervous about it. She's waking up. Hold on. Hey, Piper, Mama's here. Mama's here. Yay. Hi. It started to rain, Piper. It's all gloomy. We had a sunny, warm day. She does not like to wake up alone. She doesn't like to wake up and open her eyes and not see anybody. Oh no, I know you took a nap out of Mama's arms. She put you down. Can you believe it? Look at all that rain. My goodness. Rain, rain. We love the rain. Yes, we do. This is my 7-month-old Piper. I'm gonna have to get her some milk. This video is getting long anyway. I think I'll take a break and I'm gonna get her some milk and I'll come back. Okay, see you soon.